Meantime, the Biden administration already handed out the lion's share of a $39 billion CHIPS Act, of course, but there's still about $6 billion left. And Megan Cassella joins us this morning with more on which companies could get the remaining funds. Morning.
Morning, Andrew. So hundreds of companies are still vying for a piece of that award money. So most of the $33 billion that's been allocated so far has gone to leading edge producers like Intel and Samsung. But Mike Schmidt, who leads the CHIPS office at Commerce, tells us that the focus from here will be on smaller awards, giving them to dozens of smaller companies all along the supply chain, from equipment providers on one end to advanced packaging facilities on the other, with the goal of making production sustainable over the long term.
Once we begin to rebuild the scale that we expect to see in this country, I think that will create ongoing investment dynamics and continue to make it attractive for companies to invest here in the future.
Now, one company hoping for an award is IQE. It produces what's called compound semiconductor wafers for companies like Apple. And its CEO recognizes the need to fund AI chips, but he says it's crucial to also fund the materials that help them work.
So compound is at the core of the digital infrastructure. And without compound, there is no smartphones. Without compound, there's no 5G. Without compound, there's no AI.
Now, industry sources tell me that Texas Instruments, Applied Materials, and Global Wafers are other companies that are also likely in line for award funding, all of which we expect to be allocated before the end of the year. Guys?
So you said that the Commerce Department expects to be able to fund the supply chain end to end, and that's a critical component of this whole situation. But with only $6 billion left, is that enough money?
Of course, not exactly, right? Commerce says that they always expected this to remain a global supply chain, right? That suppliers, that manufacturers are always going to have to look overseas for some of their components, and they say that's okay. But they also say that, you know, a CHIPS Act 2, a CHIPS Round 2 would be well spent. And the industry sources I spoke with said there's going to have to be some intense juggling here if we really want to build out that supply chain. The criticism or the concern is that if we don't focus enough on the rest of the supply chain, then it's great to have manufacturing in the U.S., but we're still going to be dependent on overseas suppliers or packaging facilities to get those chips out the door. And so then, was it really a success?
Okay, but hold on, help me here, because if the suppliers are so important, why all the focus then really on all of these huge leading edge companies that may not need the money as much?
Yeah, some sources I spoke with said this is mostly political, right? That there's been so much focus on getting that advanced manufacturing here, those leading edge chips here. That's what gets all the buzz. They wanted to make sure they did that. Commerce also says, though, that, you know, they want to make sure that they're spending taxpayer money in the right way. They want to get as much private investment as they can for the public funding. So the thinking there might be part of, you know, if they give some to Intel, Intel can then invest a lot more here than a smaller company could. So there are some trade-offs. They do want to get the next flashy thing and build out AI in the U.S. while also looking to build out the supply chain if they can.